Mallory, Hartley, Dave Campbell's Texas Football here with the Director of Recruiting, Greg Powers. We're going to talk about another team today that has just absolutely hit the ground running in terms of recruiting in the state of Texas. Just from the class of 2025, they have 6 total commits, all from the Lone Star State. Talk about this class of 2025, all coming from Texas.
I want to start with the -- 1 name on this list for me, and that's Ty Hawkins. He's a dual threat quarterback from San Antonio Johnson. This dude is awesome. He's so much fun to watch. Yeah. He's a guy, you know, right when he started to like pop up on the radar, the Kyler Murray comparisons I think are apparent, right? Like he's a guy who
100%.
plays with a lot of moxie. He's not afraid to press the action. He likes to fit the ball into tight windows. He can make all the throws. He brings a little bit to the table, like he can throw from different arm slots. He can work well outside of the pocket. He's not afraid to pull the ball down and run when things break down. He can really gash defenses on the ground, which I think is super important. So Ty Hawkins is like the foundation of this class, a class that you can build around. He's also very active on the recruiting trail. He's trying to get good players to come to TCU with him, and I really think that's important in a quarterback recruit, a guy who is like the alpha, right? Like he's an alpha in this class. I'm a big Ed Small guy. I love Ed Small's game. Like he is a guy who he literally catches everything. If the ball is in his general direction, he is going to catch it. And I look continuously at wide receiver rankings because to me, wide receiver is the toughest spot to evaluate. And here's why. Because bigger guys kind of star in high school sometimes, and they don't have like some of the qualities that make them special as they advance to the next level into college and into the NFL. Sometimes if you have a big body, you can be dominant. Ed Small is jacked up. Like he has a big body, but he's also really quick in and out of his cuts, has strong hands. So I really try to pay attention to receivers' hands in the camp setting and in, you know, on game film to see how strong their hands are. I'm a big Ed Small guy. I think he can do a lot in that offense, and I think he pairs nicely with Chance Ables, who's a big framed wide receiver who they also have a commitment from. So on the offensive side of the ball, out of the gates, TCU's doing a really good job.
Yeah. I would say. And speaking to that just a little bit, the Horned Frogs actually picked up a commitment this week from Dickinson tight end Mason Peterson. Talk to the TCU fans a little bit about what they're getting in Mason Peterson.
Well, all right, so it's an RPO offensive scheme, and sometimes you don't really necessarily think of a tight end within that scheme, but the way that Kendall Briles used Jared Wiley last year, I think, is they can do a lot with Mason Peterson in that same role. If you move a tight end in line within that offensive scheme, and it's, you know, they're doing a lot of run blocking and zone blocking up front, sometimes the defense completely forgets about the tight end as he runs a flat route or something like that. He can become wide open. Well, Mason Peterson is extremely athletic. He's a guy who can really do that well, and he can also split out as a flex guy, and I think that he can stay on the field to create mismatches in that offense because of his athleticism, because he's such a good receiver after the catch. He really runs well, that he can present some mismatch problems for defenses, because when you move that tight end in line, it tips the defense's hand of what they're going to do and how they're going to play that down, and I think Mason Peterson can bring a lot to the table. Not to be a guy overlooked in this class because of how valuable he could potentially be within that offense.
And starting off, obviously very hot on the recruiting trail in the state of Texas for TCU. Obviously a lot of uncommitted prospects that the Horned Frogs are trying to go after. Name a couple of those players that these fans should be watching, and you know, Sonny Dykes
put me on the spot.
Get a
right out of the
gate. Get the advantage from.
You know, I like Micah Strickland, cornerback from Brownsboro. I would put him in the lean category for TCU right now. I think that they might lead for him. They were really out of the gate strong in his recruitment. He has an official visit scheduled to come see TCU very, very early in the process. I wouldn't be surprised if he's a commit after his official visit. Now, the big fish, like the big fish, Ty Haywood from Denton Ryan, continues to like keep TCU on his list. He is the #3 prospect in the DCTF Hot 100. I think that he's a guy, like if you really want to get excited about a potential prospect signing in this class, the guy that you really want to watch closely, can TCU beat out, you know, Texas A&M and Oklahoma and Texas for Ty Haywood, who is a more local product? I think that's one to watch really closely. And I love Emmanuel Choice at Lancaster. He's a guy who is a mismatch problem in the red zone, a guy who can really stretch defenses vertically, and he already has an official visit set with TCU. So there's 3 names I think that you should all watch. All 3 of those guys are rated within the top 60 in the DCTF Rising Hot 100. But if TCU can pull off a miracle and sign Ty Haywood, it's a real big cause for celebration in Fort Worth.
Absolutely. He's Greg Powers, Director of Recruiting at Dave Campbell's Texas Football. See all of his fantastic, great, awesome work at texasfootball.com/recruiting.